What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever episode of Outer Rim Radio. It's the Star Wars podcast where we go in depth about Star Wars, storytelling, what we think is going to happen, and all the news that's dropped. Uh, Today we've got a lot to talk about. There's literally 10 new shows, more Mandalorian. Mandalorian just finished wrapping up, and there's 2 movies that we know about. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Ethan Odenthal.
How's it going, guys?
And Jacob Trout.
Hello, everybody.
All right, Ethan, you want to get into the agenda for the show?
Yeah, like Charlie said, man, we just had so much stuff just drop. It's really exciting. It's definitely a good time to be a Star Wars fan for sure. So let's just get started. We're gonna cover a whole lot. Like Charlie's saying, there's gonna be a lot of Star Wars shows that just came out. They announced some comics and even some new movies. So we're gonna cover all those. Kind of talk about some quick little blurbs that came with each of those, and just make sure when we get into the Mandalorian stuff like that, we'll kind of give you some spoiler warnings. But if you haven't watched that yet, be sure to watch out for that because it was some pretty exciting stuff. But other than that, we're just going to be kind of discussing the Mandalorian season 2. It just wrapped up as of recording this. It was like 2 days ago, and it was awesome to say the least. But like I said, a lot happened. So if you haven't watched it yet, spoilers ahead. So Charlie, let's get into the news then. Let you cover that.
All right. So Disney just released some information on a galactic scale. We're going to start off with the big one, which is, I think, the Rogue Squadron movie. It's going to be the next Star Wars movie. So obviously a pretty big thing. It's described as a story of a new generation of starfighter pilots, and it's directed by Patty Jenkins, who's made such films as the Wonder Woman movies, and it'll be coming out in 2023. Some other notable things that should be mentioned with it is that she plans to make it the greatest fighter pilot movie of all time. And it's all original, so it's not based on the books or the video games that came before. And it's supposed to be made as an entry point to the series, according to Bob Iger. So what do you guys think?
I mean, obviously with that, there's a lot to talk about with that. I've heard some people kind of talking about, Patty Jenkins taking this, and she's obviously famous for the Wonder Woman. I think that's kind of something to discuss on a future show, just because there's a lot of depth there.
Sure.
But I really don't see anything wrong with making another entry point movie, an entry point show. I mean, that's what The Mandalorian was, and as we've seen, it worked out wonderful. So I think it's just too early to say. We don't know anything. It's coming out in 2023. They're not even really in pre-production yet, so we'll find out. That's basically all I've got to say about that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely agree about the entry point, entry point part. I think everyone likes Star Wars for a different reason. Some people come for the Jedi, some people come for the bounty hunter, some people come for the starships. And while probably every Star Wars movie has had a starship in it at some point. I think the Resistance cartoon was the only one that had like a big focus on ships.
Yeah, like any sort of real squadron.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, like I know Rebels for one has had a big section about it, but no show, movie, any of that, anything canon anyway, has had a sole focus on like starships and squadrons. So
yeah, we lost so much of that content to the Legends wipe.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I like action movies, so I'm not mad if we're just gonna get Star Wars Top Gun. Let's see it.
Yeah, that sounds badass. So I'm down for it. All right, the next thing on the list is honestly what I'm the most excited for, because it is more than anything, it is just this direct sequel to Clone Wars, which is obviously one of my favorite shows ever. And that is Bad Batch. The series follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch of Clone Force 99, first introduced in Clone Wars, as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. For those of you that don't know, they're a unique squad of clones that vary genetically from their brothers in the Clone Army. Each possess exceptional skill that makes them extraordinarily effective soldiers and a formidable crew. In the post-Clone Wars era, they'll take on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find new purpose. and I'm so excited for it, especially with that new trailer. It shows Fennec Shan. Uh, it shows that Echo actually stays in the group, which was definitely intentional given that Clone Wars, Clone Wars arc, and you know, I'm super excited for more Filoni cartoons.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. How do I put this? I think The Mandalorian is definitely one of those shows that was more entry point. Where I'm feeling like this show, it's going to be a lot more getting into the depth, the nitty gritty of that kind of plot, that kind of depth of a story for the clones. So I think if you
Yeah,
haven't watched the Clone Wars yet and you're excited for this, I don't think it's going to hurt to watch the Clone Wars cartoons.
for sure, because it will play like a really big role into what happens. Because if it's anything like Clone Wars, it's not just going to be literally only the Bad Batch. We're going to see a lot of returning characters. We can even see Fennec Shan from Mandalorian in the trailer. We can see Grand Moff Tarkin. And given the description and the fact that we see them on like Caminos, we know that they're eventually going to have to leave the Empire at some point. So I'm super excited. Fish, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for a sequel. I think the Clone Wars is like one of the most popular like shows or movies of Star Wars. Uh Also more Fennec Shand is always better. So
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, we're going to talk about her in a little bit, but
But I
I
think we
I
all love that character.
yeah,
mhm.
yeah, for sure.
Then, all right. So the third thing that's up, we don't have a lot of information on. It's literally the entitled Taika Waititi film, and it's literally just that he's making it. There was like a cool logo. It literally looked like a Schoolhouse Rock. It's like the way that everyone describes it. And
I'm so excited.
yeah, Taika actually worked on The Mandalorian before, but he's mostly known for Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit, which are both fantastic movies.
Yeah, he is. Gosh, if you haven't watched any of his movies, and you don't even need to be a big MCU fan, which I'm not really. I liked Thor Ragnarok a lot, but he's so good at satire. He's so good at pointed humor.
Yeah,
And if we look back at the prequels, which people have the most, there's the most controversy over those movies. Um, he just has a sense of humor that it's not slapstick. It's very poignant. It's very situational. And I think Star Wars only will benefit if it's a well executed movie. It's well produced. It'll be funny. It'll be enjoyable. It'll be fun. It'll have a lot of color, a lot of brightness. I mean, Thor Ragnarok was a high octane, high action movie, but more than anything, it was just fun to watch. And that's, of course, with all the Star Wars movies, really what you get out of it every time is the rewatches. It's always fun. It's not always just about some big depth story, lots of action. It's just a good time. You enjoy it.
right. Exactly. And I think he'll do a really good job. I think I have a lot of faith in him in terms of the script writing because I know he can balance action with humor, and that's a lot of what Star Wars is. Like, even like Empire Strikes Back, the more you watch it, the more I'm like, this is low key kind of a rom com. Like,
Yeah.
with all the Han and Leia stuff, like that movie in particular is definitely like Han's movie. So I think he'll do a good job of writing like witty characters that are likable like that. You can even see his humor in like The Mandalorian, where they have that bit in the first episode where he keeps trying to self destruct. He's like, "No, don't self destruct." Like that's definitely like one of his influences on it. And then, all right, so let's move on to our next piece of news: the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which is going to be incredible. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are both reprising their roles as Obi-Wan and Anakin / Darth Vader, and I'm super excited for it. Uh, and it's being directed by Deborah Chow, who's also worked on Mandalorian. Uh, she did the Sin and the Reckoning of season 1, which were two of my favorite episodes. She also worked on Better Call Saul and Mr. Robot, which are very well known shows. Uh, the Obi-Wan series, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan faced his greatest defeat, or the Sith. Jesus Christ, I'm having a hard time reading. Where he faced
Okay.
his greatest defeat, the downfall of corruption of his best friend, Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker, turned Sith Lord Darth Vader. And Kathleen Kennedy said, "quote This will be the rematch of the century." So definitely heavily implying that we're going to get a fight, that they're going to have some sort of confrontation. So yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, dude. Okay, so first of all, I think it's worth noting. Obviously, if you keep up with Star Wars news, we have known about the Obi-Wan series coming out for quite a long time. It's been a couple months, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and it's
the
been
big
rumored
thing
like
that
forever before that.
yeah, of course. The big announcement was that Hayden Christensen would come back as Darth Vader. And as much as I could get into the story, what we think is going to happen, I'm much more excited to see Hayden Christensen get the chance to reprise his roles with no offense to the prequels, but I think directors that are going to allow him to use his chops as an actor
Yeah,
more effectively. He is a very, if you watch him, and even if you watch the prequels, he's so expressive in his face and his physical
yeah,
emotion. And a lot of the stuff that people dog on him, I don't get the negativity that people are throwing at this idea, because I just think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be the Clone Wars with more action. And I'm also excited to see Kathleen Kennedy have more of a role in executive producing, because I know a
yeah.
lot of people pushed a lot of the blame of the sequels towards her, and I just don't think that was completely warranted.
Agreed. I think more than anything, it was just like a lack of general direction. That's the clear issue in those. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
don't
don't know
want
how
to talk
Fish.
about those
How do you
too
feel
long.
about the Obi-Wan series? I know that's pretty exciting, but
Oh God, I'm excited. um, I remember Charlie and I were talking last night about like Boba's actor just being like perfectly aged, just like one of the random things that made his appearance so much better. And the fact that it's been a few years since the prequels, Ewan McGregor's also going to be like perfectly aged. That's just like a little icing on the cake that I always think about when I think about the Obi-Wan show. But oh God, am I so excited!
Yeah,
yeah,
um,
there's nothing more to say, right?
yeah. There's
Obi-Wan is
so many
top
cool.
3 and my favorite characters. So for him to get his own show, it's like perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah. Speaking of perfect characters and a perfect show, Charlie, we just got to move on to this next one because I'm so excited, man.
everyone's favorite Dave Filoni creation, Ahsoka. I'm so excited for the Ahsoka show. Quote, after making her long-awaited live-action debut in The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano's story, written by Dave Filoni, will continue the limited series starring Rosario Dawson and executive produced by Filoni himself and Jon Favreau. And I love what they're calling like the Mandalorian verse right now. The Jedi was like one of my favorite episodes from this past season. I think Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job portraying Ahsoka, and I'm just super excited, especially with the logo
Yeah.
having all the world between world stuff. So
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Fish, I want to get your opinion on this because we haven't talked about this yet. Because you've watched Rebels, I think we've all watched Rebels. I think Rosario Dawson did such a good job of capturing that anger that she had in Rebels towards Darth Vader, Anakin. And man, she was just such an emotional actor. And you put Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau's names on anything, it's just like printing gold. So it's again, it feels like we're getting so much stuff. And like, what can go wrong? Like, there is some stuff we're gonna talk about that like I'm a little bit skeptical on, but man, you can't be for this. She's just such an impressive actress. We've got such great writers, and they've got a limited scope. They're keeping themselves reined in, and that's what I really appreciate. Is we're only getting as much story as necessary.
right, and I'm glad that it's not all trying to be forced through the Mandalorian. I'm like that they used season 2 to really introduce us to all these cool characters to get us to all these new shows. But there's still so much time till these things come out that people that are unfamiliar with the story can learn about those characters if they like them from their appearance in the show.
Yeah, yeah. Also super excited for this. I think like one of the things I was kind of worried about with the Mandalorian was it would become basically like a episode after episode of live action cameos. We had like Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, and I'm really glad that it didn't go in that direction. Um, of just having like, oh hey, do you remember this character? here are they in live action. And I'm glad that it felt very smooth, just the introduction of all the various characters. Um, and I'm also glad that like Ahsoka's plot didn't overtake um, Mando's,
Yeah,
and that she's getting her own show, because her own show, like her whole plot of potentially finding Ezra, is huge, and it needs its own show or movie.
yeah. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't animated, but given the fact they casted Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, I was like, okay, well, it makes perfect sense. And
Mhm.
Ezra's like, obviously, he's gonna be older, so it makes perfect sense that they would recast someone as older from a character that's a cartoon. So, but yeah. Speaking of the Mandoverse, the
The
other show, the
Mando time,
Mandoverse.
yeah.
Pardon?
Oh, I was saying the Mando timeline.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting. But we're gonna have Rangers of the New Republic as well. So this is also gonna be set within the same timeline. This new live action series from executive producers Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, once again, will intersect the future stories and culminate into a climactic story event. And I think that I'm assuming the people that are watching this have also seen Mandalorian. It makes sense. But what they talked about in Ahsoka's, I think that's what they're gonna have be the big bad for the entire show. That's my prediction. But and I
Yeah,
just
this is the show that I think it'll be good. It's pretty cool. Just to be honest, this is kind of the New Republic characters have kind of been the weakest to me in the Mandalorian so far, especially like the pilots.
yeah
So I'm interested to see how Favreau and Filoni will kind of get us to care about them, because it's just so hard. It's just
yeah
so hard as a fiction writer when you create something to have it killed, as we saw in the sequels. That was the death of the New Republic, and now we're going back before it died, which is Star Wars does all the time. I'm just
yeah.
I'm interested to see what
We know
happens.
we know how it ends for like these groups of people, but they still have a lot of heavy lifting in terms of this to get us to care about like the actual characters, and they have like I think the way they're gonna get people to really like the show and like the characters is just through like I think the show's gonna have a formula like not to say it's like exactly the same because I don't think it will be, but something like Law and Order and like just like general mystery shows sort of thing. Like because our understanding is that they're more than likely going to be looking into some sort of bigger plot and trying to piece things together. Like we see
Yeah,
those
from my
characters
understanding,
in
it's
like
gonna be more of a crime show.
exactly. So it's like we see those things in Mando. So we're gonna see like when they showed up, they're like, there's something going on out here. Like they're definitely gonna be trying to piece it together, even if
Yeah,
people are like lying to them.
yeah, that's kind of what got seeded too. Is they were every time they kind of ran into Mando, they were looking into something. They were investigating a quadrant or something like that. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. But this is one I really can't say a lot about because we just don't know anything really.
yeah. I'm super excited. Fish, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts on this one. There were a couple that also just didn't really catch my eye, and this is one of them.
Gotcha.
I'm definitely gonna watch it. I mean, the more the better, but
Yeah,
eh,
I feel like we're all gonna watch all of these shows anyway. So
yeah.
also, all right. So now to move on to what I think is the most surprising and the most like out of left field show
Oh
that was
yeah,
announced is the Lando show. I was not expecting a Lando show at any point, really. I honestly thought after I don't know everything we've seen with Lando that was just kind of it. And they had comics, and I was like, that's cool. But Lando Calrissian will return in a brand new series for Disney Plus. Justin Simeon, so hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, creator of critically acclaimed Dear White People, is a huge Star Wars fan and is developing the story. It is to be assumed that Donald Glover will be reprising his role following Solo, which I love because more Donald Glover. It's great.
yeah. So I've got a few things to say about this, but I want to check something quick. So Fish, if you have any notes, I'll let you any thoughts, I'll let you take it because I got to look something up real quick.
I go for it. So this is actually the other show um, that I not super excited about. Um, I really like Solo. Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. But to be honest, I don't know. After watching Solo, I'm good with the characters from that that little era. I guess I would like to learn more about Kira, but besides that, I think we've seen a lot of Han and Lando. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
I think they're
Well,
going to use that to explore that era more, for sure.
yeah, and we have it's just such a different directing style. So Justin Simeon is a gay black man, which we just Star Wars in its early iterations, and especially the first six movies, the OT and the prequels, there just wasn't a lot of diversity in terms of acting, directing, producing, and honestly, we don't know what it's going to be like. I think the more we can get people from diverse backgrounds who really love Star Wars, the more we have to gain. It's just we don't know what they're going to do with Lando. There's 1,000 ways they could go with this.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Lando's always just been a controversial character. Some people really didn't like him in the OT, and he was one of people's biggest complaints in the Solo movie. So I think it's just we're gonna have to wait and see. But it's just worth noting, Donald Glover, if he's in it, we'll see. We still don't know. Um, it's assumed, but it's all hype and smoke and mirrors right now. So
Yeah,
we
there's
really
like
won't see
not
anything
much.
until it's announced.
Yeah, there's not much we can see. And it'll be interesting to see if it takes place after or before Solo, because I feel like you could make it more compelling that he could have a show with having the Millennium Falcon and having L3, you know, returning as a character, because a lot of people actually really like that character. So
Yeah. I mean, if we see some complexity and we can add complexity to a character who is assumed to not be that complex before, I think it'll be cool, but we'll just have to wait and see, man.
exactly, and then even then, if they go after it, we still have all those Kira Mall connections and all those interesting things, the underworld. And
Yeah, true.
Lando is certainly a character that can easily wind up in the middle of all these things. Also, this show is maybe my best hope for a live action Hondo. So if we're gonna be dealing with lots of scum and villainy in that era, please, for the love of God, give me more Hondo. I love that character. And then, all right, so
All
moving
right.
on. Moving on to our next thing, we have Andor, which is based around Cassian Andor, who is from Rogue One. Andor, a tense, nail-biting spy thriller created by Tony Gilroy, is set to arrive on Disney Plus in 2022. Diego Luna, reprising his role as the rebel spy Cassian Andor from Rogue One, will be joined by a fantastic new cast. The production kicked off 3 weeks ago in London. It's probably 4 weeks ago now. Director Tony Gilroy has worked on Rogue One, the Jason Bourne film, as well as Armageddon, so we're bound to see lots of cool action sequences and very interesting writing. I think this is a good place for Star Wars to really explore, like, necessarily some of like the darker themes in Star Wars, like how much is it worth for freedom. And I think it'd be an interesting place to see like a character like Saw Gerrera pop up again.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Rogue One was fantastic. I don't think there's really anyone who calls themselves a Star Wars fan who really hated it.
Right.
Most people either were like it's okay or they just outright loved it. And for
Yeah,
me, I loved it. I just love the complexity, and I think getting Casey and Andor into another plot will be amazing because he was just such a complex character. And like you said, I think they're going to be exploring darker themes. There's a really star-studded cast in there, which literally the names are too much to have
yeah,
to list it all out. So go look it up for yourself. Go look into it is my recommendation because it's going to be super cool. It's going to be high action, and I think it's just going to be different than everything else we're going to be seeing.
for sure.
Thank God we're getting more Rogue One esque stuff.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I know.
so good. I think the show will be like that sort of direction for a Star Wars show is something I really want, and I think I think it really plays well to play of, like, it's kind of oddly the opposite of Rebels in a way, because in Rebels we see like Phoenix Squadron's always very like pacifist. They're always helping people. That's usually their goal. And I think this can take it in the opposite direction. Is like, what are you willing to do to help a greater cause, even if it's a bad thing?
Yeah, it's going to be all about getting the job done. That's kind of, I think that let's just establish this here. They are riding off the coattails of the hype of the Mandalorian, for good or bad, and they're trying to cast a wide net and hit everything that hasn't been hit in Star Wars before, or has, and just reestablish it, renew it, breathe new life into it. So, we might be talking about things and be like, "This is amazing, this is exciting," or "We don't know, this might be cool," but maybe we're not the target audience for that too. So
Exactly.
we're just gonna have to wait and see with a lot of this, because it's gonna be different. I think this is something we really want for Star Wars, but I think for some Star Wars fans, it's not going to be as big of a hit.
Right. And I think that's important to keep in mind. All right. So, on to the show that's probably has like the most talk and speculation just about what the heck is going to happen is The Acolyte. Leslie Headland, Emmy Award nominated creator of the mind-bending series Russian Doll, brings a new Star Wars series to Disney Plus, The Acolyte. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take the audience into a new galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. And it was confirmed that this takes place roughly about 50 years before the Phantom Menace, which means we can see some interesting characters, especially from Darkseid. So there's definitely a strong chance of seeing Plagueis, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's who was the guy that was Plagueis' master?
Oh, I don't know. It's a great question.
I looked him up earlier. I just forgot to put it in the show notes. But Odie, are you on that case?
Gosh, I remember this because it's always so hard to say. It's Tenebros.
Yeah.
Tene.
Yeah, Tenebris.
We only have it in books, so no.
Yeah, it's literally only mentioned in the Plagueis books, and I think that'd be interesting to explore that. And I just finished Tarkin, and the same guy that wrote that book is the guy that wrote the Plagueis book. So I'm wondering if anything from that book is in that era. We could see.
We're just gonna have to see.
Yeah. I also don't know how old Sheev is, and like how old Sheev Palpatine is in. Yeah.
16 billion years old. He's been keeping himself alive since the beginning of everything. He will be in every Star Wars movie, every Star Wars show, every Star Wars comic.
Yeah, forget being from Naboo.
As long as his actor is still alive.
Oh my god, yeah.
Star Wars.
Ian McDermott.
We were joking about how we were trying to come up with a name for the podcast, and we were joking about getting Ian McDermott to say podcast, unlimited podcast, instead of power. And we're like, how much would we have to pay for that to be the
He didn't have cameos, so you're like, shit.
I was like, if he had cameo, I'd be like, Mom, I need money.
All right, so let's reel ourselves back in. But man, for me, I'm always excited to explore a new timeline and work. January 5th, the new High Republic books come out. So we're just going to be exploring unknown territory. We're going to be seeing how the Jedi got to be so bloated and wrapped in its own bureaucracy. I think it's going to be a really cool timeline. I know a lot of people have some crazy speculation about this, whether it's maybe it's a Night Sister acolyte, or is it a Sith acolyte? We don't know.
Yeah.
This isn't explored territory, so that's the exciting thing.
Yeah, and it's also described as a mystery thriller, so it's like way different than anything else in Star Wars.
Yeah,
the acolyte is Darth Sidious.
Oh my gosh!
No,
shut up.
Snoke is no, just kidding. Snoke. No.
We're not getting into this. So I'm gonna.
I'm joking. All right, let's let's get into the next thing, which is Star Wars Vision, presenting an all-new creative take for Star Wars. Creative takes on the galaxy far, far away. Star Wars Visions will be the series of animated short films celebrating Star Wars through the lens of the world of the best anime creators. The anthology collection will bring 10 fantastic visions from several of the leading Japanese anime studios, offering fresh and diverse cultural perspective to Star Wars, which I'm super interested to see. I'm also like, I don't know necessarily how canon this will be, like if they're like really going to allow them to do crazy stuff, or if this is going to be like super sick for lore building. Like,
I think my opinion, and I'm easily pleased. Let me put it that way first. Either way, I'm going to be happy.
right?
It's just one of those things where this has kind of been the beauty of what we've seen in Star Wars, and what I think has made it in many ways a very large community is we've brought in so many different creators, and half of these creators are just diehard fans. If you look at the other series that people really love and really latch onto in fantasy and sci-fi, things like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter's, Star Trek, you can always benefit by bringing in new ideas, new people, new styles.
Right.
Star Wars is only going to grow as a fan base, and we see this. And sure, a Star Wars anime may not be that cool in terms of lore building and all this stuff, but if you've ever watched anime, the action's at least dope, or all the scene setting is at least gorgeous. So we're just going to be getting
Yeah.
something completely different here. And
And
isn't that amazing? Isn't
yeah.
that awesome?
Yeah. And I think there's already a lot of anime-esque inspiration in Star Wars, particularly Clone Wars and Rebels. There's like even an interview of George Lucas talking about Clone Wars where he's like, it's basically an anime. Like when he talks about the show.
If you look at the original Clone Wars cartoon,
yeah,
it was much more the animation style of like Samurai Jack.
Exactly.
One of those anime-esque cartoons. So,
and even then, like when he was getting people to write like the Clone Wars that we really know, that one. He brought in Dave Filoni, who worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's technically not an anime, but it's basically an anime. It's an anime-esque cartoon,
I'm excited to see more people brought to the scene, man. That's for me. That's so exciting.
Yeah, just like I feel like the stuff that is very anime inspired stuff in Star Wars is often some of the best stuff. So for this to be happening is very exciting.
I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, but there is a like fan made like TIE Fighter anime short.
Oh yeah. I follow the guy that makes all the like anime ones.
Yeah.
They're so sick.
Yeah.
Oh, TIE Fighter Remastered.
It might be, I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But I mean, that was super cool, so.
Yeah. Even like there's all the different anime intros for like the different movies and then like the prequels and original trilogy. They're also cool. Now, all right, so let's just get into the next thing to keep us on track so we can actually talk about Mando here in a bit. We're so close. A droid story. As Lucasfilm continues to develop new stories, the intersection of animation and visual effects offers new opportunities to explore. Lucasfilm Animation will be teaming up with Lucasfilm Visual Effects team, Industrial Light and Magic, and develop a special Star Wars adventure for Disney+. A droid story. This epic journey will introduce a new hero guided by legendary duo R2-D2 and C-3PO. This is the show I feel like I cared the least about. I hope something interesting happens, but I literally have no faith in that.
You and me both. I watched it the first time, and whenever I rewatch Clone Wars, I skip that weird like 4-parter with C-3PO and R2-D2.
My favorite R2-D2 and C-3PO thing in Clone Wars is when they go to that planet and accidentally form a democracy, and then everyone starts killing each other.
I'm with you guys. I've never been one who was really big into the droids. I know even with Resistance, with BB-8, they tried to pull in more droids, more styles of that. And you know, I look at it now through this lens, but this is the great thing about being a Star Wars fan, and I'm going to say this 1,000 times how lucky we are right now. Um, if I was 7 years old and I was getting something like this, I'm going to guarantee that I would enjoy this.
Right.
And this may not be for us, it may not be for you 50-year-old neckbeard Star Wars fan who needs everything to be perfectly canon. Sorry about that, buddy. But this one's for the 7-year-olds who are going to just grow up and be fans. And the more we can keep Star Wars alive and have new people have passion into it, then who cares? Love
Exactly.
it. I'm probably going to absolutely hate it, but I'm not the intended audience.
Exactly.
So that's
That
all I
is
Damn right.
that is the entire point of why it's important that Star Wars grows, is that there is something for everyone.
Yep.
That's like what
Absolutely.
makes everything resonate. And I think
Perfect.
I'd say the films are like way more broad in terms of the appeal, but I need something little. Like, how many people went from, oh yeah, I like Star Wars, to I love Star Wars because they watched Clone Wars growing up, or Rebels. Like, that number is probably really huge.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, with the whole like age group thing, I remember when Clone Wars first came out, I thought it was super dumb, and then I grew up, which is a little odd, as you know, probably intended for a younger audience, but
Right.
Oh, I remember when the prequels came out when I was little. When the first one came out, we were really young, but we were still kids when the second and third ones were coming out, and man, I was so excited to go watch those. And now I grew up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to drink to watch this because in the second film they say "milady" 27 times.
They do. And
But
it's a rough drinking game.
you know what? I loved it when I was a kid,
And
and
there's
I
pairs
got
that
the
are
enjoyment.
CG and floating.
Oh my gosh, CG pairs. That's a whole nother conversation.
We'll have an entire episode dedicated to CG pair. That would be the super in depth. All right, let's move on to the last thing on the list here.
One last quick blurb.
Mandalorian special coming out on Christmas Day. The hour-long making of season 2 will show us the storytelling decisions and production behind that created such an amazing season, which I'm excited to see. I loved the gallery for season 1. I watched all of that, and we'll probably learn more stuff through that.
That's what I'm excited to see, is the storytelling decisions. And we're about to get into our Mando discussion, which is really when we're going to get into the storytelling. And
42 minutes in. It's the title of the podcast, finally.
Whatever. We'll deal with that. That's not our problem.
Right.
But it'll be cool. We'll see. Just look out for it.
All right. Odie, you want to shoot for starting our discussion off?
Yeah, so we're good on the news discussion because I think we were kind of doing that a little more organically rather than saving it all at the end, which may have brought it out, but it was good to talk about. Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that, most weeks we do this, we're not going to have 42 minutes of shit to talk about.
Yeah, we'll be like, yeah, there's a comic book out. It's okay.
It was good. Oh, I read the new High Republic book. I really liked it. So there we go. Yeah, so let's talk about Mandalorian. I think let's talk a little bit general first before we get into kind of the storytelling stuff that really grabbed me with this season. First of all, spoilers if you haven't watched it and you're listening at home, your car, whatever you're doing, the shower. We're about to talk about the last season, episode 16. Maybe some stuff other than that. So if you haven't watched that, just don't.
Yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled, turn it off.
Yeah, okay. So, spoiler now. How did you guys feel about that finale, man?
I loved it.
I went in prepared for everyone to die. I still cried at the end, but it wasn't because I was sad.
Agreed.
I know.
That's literally.
I didn't think everyone would die. I thought like 2 people would die.
Yeah, actually, I was going in prepared to lose some characters I liked.
I was prepared to lose Boba Fett. I thought that was the end.
Never. He'll never die. He's immortal. He's like Melee.
And now he's just thanks, Charlie. Thanks for your smash segue.
You're welcome.
No, I really liked the episode. We were joking about this before, but man, there's Star Wars fans, guys, chill out. Yeah, the CG wasn't perfect on Luke, but you know what was badass? Seeing Mando hold Darksaber. You gotta take your moments. Also, him fighting. I know it was a Beskar spear, but literally, it was just a force pike
Yeah,
from
literally.
Legends. That's
I mean-
exactly what it looked like. It was the same model. I'm like, okay.
I mean, yeah.
So
I mean,
it was
I
just
guess
fan service. It was
force
all
pikes are
fan service.
technically canon because the guards have them.
Yeah,
So, but anyways, yeah. Like
it was so good.
it was a great fight too. Like I loved it.
And it felt realistic.
Yeah, and it felt like it's super on brand for Gideon to do what he did. To just be like,
Yeah.
all right, take it, and then just betray him
All right,
immediately.
I want to share a quick blurb because I think it's really funny, and if you guys haven't heard it, which I doubt you have, it's amazing. So Moff Gideon, he's played by Giancarlo Esposito. He is an American actor, Danish born, done a lot of stuff. Most famous for before The Mandalorian, well, still the most famous for probably, is Breaking Bad. He played one of the major villains in Breaking Bad.
The man's
He's
always a
just
villain.
He's like one of the best villain actors. And let me see if I can find the exact quote. But just for background, he has 4 daughters.
Oh
And
yeah, I love the story.
One of his daughters, actually, it was 2 of his daughters. His youngest, they're coming up to him and they're talking to him like, "Daddy, how do you don't hurt Baby Yoda?" Oh man, I gotta find this because it's so perfect. I want to read his words.
Yeah, it's so funny, dude. The quote is so funny.
Also, this was in part of an interview where he was talking about, you know, all the influence of women in Star Wars that we're seeing right now, and the strong women characters. As someone who has 4 daughters, and how proud he was to be a part of this. Which is just wonderful, man. I really want to find this because he basically, if I can't find it, he basically just says, they're like, "Oh, Daddy, don't hurt Baby Yoda," and he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna crush him beneath my boot." And I was like, it was so funny.
It's so good. He's like, but it's funny because I think after that he told them like, "No, I won't do anything," and then in the show he like literally shoots at the baby.
Oh, I found it. Oh, okay. Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit about the diversity we've seen, and I just love Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon. I'm so, as much as as just a writer, an active watcher of film, anytime they don't kill a villain on screen, you're like, why? You're so dumb. But
that's literally what my dad said.
Saving him.
Yeah, my dad walked up and I was like, "You watched the finale of Mandalorian?" He was like, "Yep." And I was like, "What'd you think?" He's like, "Why don't they ever just kill the fucking villain?"
Oh, here it is. They said,
It was like,
"Papa, please don't hurt that baby. Don't hurt that baby." And I said, "I will squash that little big-eared bastard."
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Should we start
how do
from
you
the
guys-
beginning of the episode? I feel like that'd probably be the easiest way to structure the recap.
I mean, we don't need to do it. Depends on how we want to do it. If we're just kind of talking about our thoughts.
Okay. I
to
have
be honest, I don't even remember.
I have one really irrational question that I need answered. And
Yeah,
how do those
what's
two
up?
shops how do those 2 ships at the beginning dock? How does the slave one dock with that Imperial transport?
Don't worry about it. You know, I'll tell you when you're ready.
It's been killing me all week. It's only been 3 days. It feels like an eternity.
It makes sense more if the docking bay was at the the nose of the ship, but I like to think that they just put back to back because that's where the unloading bay is on it. But it doesn't make sense.
It literally doesn't. But
Listen,
even in the
Charlie.
shot, you see it like go up above them, and like,
stop being these 50-year-old neckbeards on Reddit who are like, this is not ruined the episode for me.
I don't care,
I
but I
never
can't
watched
stop
Star Wars
thinking
either.
about it. I was like, but if is like one of them angled, like
You know what got
Actually, you'll know from the Legends book, series 6, episode 46 of a book series. It explains the intricacy of the Slave One. That's all I'll say. If you haven't read it, you're not a real Star Wars fan.
got him.
clearly.
Actually, my biggest discrepancy was who was the male Mandalorian with him? I know we were talking about this last night, Charlie.
Oh yeah, it's like Axe Wolf or something. It's like
Oh, Axe, yeah. He's just gone. Just,
yeah,
and
I was like,
I
what?
appreciate it. I was cool with it, just like to be like, or like, oh, he's gone. Let's have the girl power scene, which that I don't mean that in a pandering way at all. Not pandering. I don't mean
Yeah, it
that
was
in a
like
demeaning way.
that scene was actually badass, and it felt earned. It wasn't like that really
Yeah,
random
which
thing
we'll
where
get
like
into
there's
in a
just 6
second.
girls that happen to be walking the same way. You know, just all the main characters in the Avengers or like all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, and I was like, where did he go? Talking shit about sidekicks, and she called Boba Fett Sasha Banks' character. I always forget, which her name's not Sasha Banks. It's Mercedes Kastner Vanato, who plays Sasha Banks, the WWE wrestling star. Oh, it's Cosca Reeves. Yeah, she's so sassy. I was
She
like, she's
is.
being such a dick. I was like, damn. But it was a fun episode. I start to finish, it was just fun.
Yeah.
Um, the the funny thing was to me was when they were going up the chute, they're going to the docking bay, they're sliding along. I was like, why is the ship designed like this? First of all, that was my biggest complaint with that. It's just how funny it is. It's like,
Yeah.
can you imagine you're the TIE fighter coming out of that, and you're like, oh god, if I sneeze, I'm gonna blow up.
Literally.
No room for error, but it was cool.
It was so
It's
great.
funny.
But yeah, the
I really
character's
liked.
name is Axe Wolves.
Okay, I suppose. Yeah, I really liked um this season though, man. It
It's
was a
been
good
so
time,
good.
and I really like that point you made earlier, Fish, about it didn't feel just like they were using each episode as an excuse to bring on a new character. It felt genuine, it felt organic, it felt needed, and they were all impactful. They all mattered to the plot in some way.
Right.
I mean, the one that you could argue is the least impactful to the plot, just because it was in the last episode, was Luke.
Yeah.
And still, it's like, okay, if you're Die Hard, like that's cool. Other than if you are asking if he should have been deep faked, which stop right now. I don't want to talk about that, but it's just that was the amazing thing to me is how they could bring in old characters and make you nostalgic for them, but make genuine change and genuine impact with them, and then bring in new characters who I like just as much, if not more, than the old characters.
Right.
Like Mayfield.
Exactly. Mayfield
I don't
was
even like Bill Burr I like Bill Burr. He's a good comedian, but I was not expecting him to be acting like he did.
yeah.
He did a fantastic job, and man, the depth that added to the Empire with
Yeah.
just having a character who was like, oh yeah, these we aren't just lives to sacrifice.
Right. And
It
we
was
see
such a good
countless
touch.
stormtroopers just die all the time. And like they even pointed that out when they boarded the ship in the beginning of this episode where he's like, I was on the Death Star. It's like, do you know how many millions of people died? And a lot of those people don't really have a way out of there either.
Which, by the way, if you didn't hear, that was fan service. Oh god, what's the guy's name? In the movie Clerks, one of the main characters, he directed it. He's such a famous guy, and I feel bad for forgetting his name.
Oh, shoot, I know who you're talking about.
It's Kevin something, but
Yeah.
he one of the jokes in the movie is like, they killed
Kevin
all those
Smith,
people in the
it's
Death
yeah.
Star. Kevin Smith, he's like, oh yeah, they killed all these people in the Death Star. They're bad guys. And I kind of like that. It was the same thing we saw in Rogue One that we all enjoyed so much. Was like, wow,
Yeah.
it's a new perspective. It's a real way to think about it. It was very humanistic.
Yeah. And that's
been the
like being
coolest
on
thing
that
about
like surviving that will give you like a clear like sort of like a bias or a feeling towards one side. And like we saw that the other pilot was like, Empire's kind of shit right now. I'll leave. Do whatever.
And that was the cool thing was this whole show really hasn't been a you're on my team, I'm on your team. Literally the only reason we're fighting the Empire is because they mess with Grogu. They mess with Baby Yoda.
Right?
I mean, people joke about it, but it was the Baby Yoda show.
Yeah.
Like
that and Apollo Creed wants them off their planet.
oh my god.
I love calling
so,
Creed Crocodile Apollo Creed for no reason. It's so fun.
It was just fun. Like I know people are like, oh, they're getting rid of Baby Yoda. First of all, no, don't kid yourself. Stop. They like money. Disney likes to print money. They're not dumb.
Agreed.
If they were getting rid of Baby Yoda, they would have had to kill him. Let me put it that way.
There's only one way this happens, and that's when he dies.
Look, it's Star Wars. If they aren't killed on screen or in some big event like the Death Star blowing up.
Yeah, look what happened to Palpatine. They killed him on screen and he still came back.
And
Yeah, you know
Maul.
what? Yeah.
And Maul.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
you know
Maul
what? You're
didn't
right.
die on screen technically. So
Leia died on
Yes,
screen
that's
too.
true.
she did. That is true.
Luke died on screen. Ben died on screen. All the good characters die on screen. He will have to have his time.
We'll see.
Boba died and lived.
Man. Do you guys even?
Damn
What do
right.
you guys think is going to happen next? I know a lot of people are talking about Mandalore and a conflict with Bo-Katan, but I just really want to get where you guys think this is going to go, or at least where you'd like to see it go next in this next season.
I
So-
don't think there's going to be a conflict between Bo-Katan and Mando. Like, I was talking to Charlie last night, and in the Rebels, there's literally a scene where Sabine just gives Bo-Katan the Darksaber, and there's no issue.
Yeah, I think she's gonna have to really prove why she wants to lead, and I think we'll see some development from her learning that maybe she's not the one to lead, and maybe from Din realizing that he has the power to lead and he did it for Grogu, but maybe he needs to help other people, and it's not just Grogu. And with Grogu gone, there's gonna be more that he has to really learn about himself.
Yeah, and I think if you kind of look at like the classic hero's journey, he has the strength that usually makes a hero a hero. He has that empathy. He has that ability to understand people's emotions, unlike we've seen with other Mandalorians.
Yeah,
I love the Mandalorians. They're my favorite race and culture in all of Star Wars. But he does have that ability to lead. But even if we see Bo-Katan kind of have to grow to become a leader, I don't think we lose the Star Wars fans either way. I think they're going to do a good job with it. I'm hopeful to see Mando be the leader just because I just want to see him wield Darksaber a bunch.
also, and we know like invoking the
be
code
honest.
doesn't mean that the person has to die. Like they can have a fight where neither of them die. Like
Yeah.
they can
Which
build
they-
up that
they
tension.
just- If that's something they want to do, they just seeded it. 'Cause
Exactly.
Moff Gideon just willingly gave it up to create tension, which was also an awesome villain move. I was
Yeah.
so excited.
And it was like he was like, that's why I love it when it's like he spares him. He's like, "Oh, you're sparing me. This will be interesting." Like, and then he's just there. He's like just trying to turn them against each other as they're all facing an impending doom.
I really like that complexity though, because Breaking Bad, that's one of the things Breaking Bad is the most well known for is their dark comedy, dark situational comedy. And that's absolutely what that was. He's like, you know what? My life is terrible right now. I'm gonna get captured, be held prisoner till I likely eventually break out, whatever. But I just want to watch you all tussle and hate each other for a little bit. So
Right.
it was a good writing decision.
And he's like he's there. He's got the gun. He's like he's ready. Like to do whatever it takes to try to get out of this situation, even ending himself when Luke comes up. But
yeah, so we'll see. I know they basically we don't have it confirmed that the book of Boba Fett and which if you didn't know and you missed it in the credits, always watch the end credits on the season finale. What are you doing? I don't know what you're
Yeah.
looking for. They seeded that at the end of the credits of this one. Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett and season 3 are going to be a different story, is likely what we're seeing. It's not confirmed yet. We
Yeah,
don't know. They just all we know is that they have different shooting productions.
yeah.
They're on a different production schedule. So
And it says well, it says December 2021, and we know that Mando season 3 is December 2021. It's actually Christmas Day. It's supposed to be when it is. Or I guess it's Friday, so it'll be Christmas Eve for
that'd
Mando.
be fun. That'd
Yeah.
be a great Christmas present.
So I think it makes sense that you have like 3 or 4 episodes, or maybe maybe they're longer if it's Book of Fett.
We'll see. I don't know.
Either
This
way,
is gonna
I'm
be a hard
happy.
one
I
to kind of
love the
figure out what
symbolism
happens
of him
next.
taking that throne. Like,
It is pretty cool.
I had to explain it to like my mom and my dad, and I was like, the reason why that's such a cool shot and why that's so like powerful in terms of like what that means is like you need to think about the Hutts throughout all their time, like specifically Jabba. He was somebody that was so powerful that neither the Republic, the Empire, or the Confederacy ever stopped him from doing his stuff and running his criminal empire.
They needed him.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. All right, let's transition to some stuff that I really wanted to talk about. And Fish, this is just something I've actually been really excited to talk to you about. I've talked to Charlie about it a little bit, and this is going back actually a little bit into the season. Man, I have just really appreciated the complexity that Favreau and Filoni have been able to bring to Star Wars. I think one of the most notable things we've seen, and Charlie, if you can pull up what episode, that would be great. But the Tusken Raiders.
Oh yeah, that's
And
the first episode.
is it the first episode of the season?
It's the
Okay,
Marshal.
yeah.
Because
So
they
they'll be going-
wrapped that whole Tatooine arc up in like a 48-minute episode.
Yeah. I was just so happy to see, Fish, we both played KOTOR 2. We really haven't seen that, the Tusken Raiders are people. They have a culture just like you and
Mhm.
I since those games, really. I mean, there's been a few things in Legends that are now in Legends from what I recall. But man, that was just such a cool nod to see, and I don't even know how to describe it. It was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean they made them less savage, I guess. Uh like yeah, I mean it's technically Legends now, but like in Knights of the Old Republic, um one of the levels is going into like a Tusken Raider village and speaking to like their chieftain, their people and whatnot. And it like I think at least I'm not familiar with like Legends books very well. Um but as far as I recall, that was like one of the first times we've seen Tusken Raiders have like that complexity. Um and then to have it kind of brought back into canon uh
Yeah.
was a treat.
And I like how
It was
they
just
allude to
nice
their
see.
yeah. I like how they allude to that in like season 1 though, with him being able to speak like I guess their form of sign language or whatever in the gunslinger episode.
Which this is a fun fact, is based off of actual sign language. I'll have to look back into it, but it was pretty cool. They brought in sign language experts to kind of develop this. And
That's awesome.
It feels like they're taking every turn to, make Star Wars diverse, complex.
Yeah. Just a lot
Deeper
of
than
good
it was
representation
before.
happening.
And it's not a bad thing. We're just getting new stories and new ideas brought to the table. This is really liked, Tatooine has such a heavy symbolism um, in Star Wars. So much takes place there. I mean, every arc in Star Wars has either began or ended there, because we see it in prequels. We see, obviously with Anakin. We see it in the original trilogy, and then in the sequel trilogy, that's the ending shots.
Yeah.
Is Rey bearing her lightsaber there. So to kind of have this resolution of, these were considered the bad guys on this planet, and they caused so much of the plot, which was really just Anakin's anger, is really that symbolism. is having that brought together and kind of resolving that conflict,
Yeah.
which is a cool touch.
And it's
I was
not
really
even
happy
just
with that.
like main storylines. Like even Darth Maul, the first time we ever see him do anything, he's on Tatooine, and then that's where he ends up dying because of Obi-Wan. Like it's literally with so many characters, like that symbolism's definitely strong
Absolutely.
there.
That was Rebels, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Talk about such a cool scene.
That's like one of the most perfect scenes in Star Wars.
Yeah. All right, we'll get off that because I don't want to get too much into Rebels. I know we're all really big fans of that.
Yeah. We'll
One of the
definitely
things
be
I've
talking about
actually
that more.
appreciated. One of the things I also appreciated. This is kind of where I diverged from you guys. I've read a lot of westerns. And this is a western plot arc. It's very much about that like episodic go from place to place. You know, you have your overarching story, but you got to get someone to help you, and then you help them, and it's very favor for
Yeah.
favor. I really appreciated how much growth we saw in Din and these 2 seasons, especially this season, he grew a lot.
Agreed.
And man, it was just so cool. We don't
And
really get a lot of character growth in Star Wars that's not like really sudden.
yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with the movie structures that we've been tied to for a while. Like Anakin is way more fleshed out because of Clone Wars. But like if you just
Absolutely.
watch the movies, you think this guy's insane. Like
Well, because he is insane.
I mean
But
he
when
goes
they
insane, but it's like it's way
No, I'm
less
just saying,
like
if you
subtle.
only watched if you only watched the movies, you'd be like, this guy's a psychopath.
Exactly.
And it's all directing choice. That's really what happened.
Yeah, but it's like you
It's
need to
just
show that that's where he's going, like through those movies. But like when you have something like Clone Wars, you can really flesh out that character, and I think this episodic format really fits that because you can take it one step at a time.
yeah, it was so good. I mean, okay. Here, I wanted to pull some questions from the Discord server.
All right,
I'm only going to answer one of them because I think asking why Baby Yoda is in Fortnite really isn't important to me. But
money there, done.
yeah, done. The question they asked is, what do you think of Baby Yoda's true name, Grogu? How'd you all feel about that?
I like it.
It's cute. I like it.
I mean, I think it really fit the. How many of Yoda's species? Because the species is not even named. Do we even know their names of 3? Right?
Yeah, just 3: Yoda, Grogu, and Yaddle.
Yeah, Yoda
Yeah.
and
So
Yaddle.
it's 2 syllables. That's their name structure, and then they just literally picked baby sounds.
Yeah,
That's which works. It
And then-
was really thematic and it really fit and it felt organic.
yeah. And then besides, I already made the dumb joke to you about the Spaceballs thing.
Oh yeah, Groger.
Yeah, instead of yogurt, he had his kid's named Gogurt.
We'll see if we ever get another Spaceballs.
It's the one thing I long for in life that I have no faith in ever happening.
I went to the Star Wars fandom site to look up Grogu because I wanted to get a list of like the legends characters of the species, and instead of taking me to the page Grogu, it took me to Groger, a Gamorrean.
The most important character in all of canon.
By the way,
hold on
when
a second.
when I was
Grogu,
trying to figure out a name for the
Green
podcast
Green.
last night, I was just going on Wikipedia and hitting the random button. And that's
Yeah, we were struggling over that for a bit.
yeah. But we got it, and now it makes more sense than anything else I could have randomed on Wikipedia.
Star Wars names suck for the most part.
And they make it real hard, and all of them are taken. But anyways.
All right. Let's see. I think we've kind of covered everything I want to talk about because one of my big things was just I really appreciated the casting choices.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of God, I'm going back to neckbeards a lot today. A lot of people
Jesus.
are like, "Oh, this casting feels forced. This isn't." And that was a lot of the stuff we saw with the what I would call undeserved hate that the sequels got. I'm not a big sequel fan, just for clarification, but going at these actresses, like
Oh my gosh.
Rose, who played, it's undeserved. And I still think she did a wonderful job, but
Yeah.
the way they structured these scenes, the way they developed these characters, you could not make any argument that this felt forced. That Finnick, Cara, Finnick, Cara Dune, she was the marshal, not the
Yeah.
marshal. She was the no, she's the marshal now. It's Ahsoka,
Like,
Bo-Katan, like they had to be there for
yeah.
one. And we're also, they're badass. First of all, it's two of the characters. So Cara Dune is played by Gina Carano, and she's a former MMA fighter who's now like a major action star.
Thanks to this
So
show.
she is, well, she's been in other stuff before,
Oh
like
yeah.
Fast and Furious and a couple other things.
That's true.
She is strong as hell. So I really appreciate that they were putting strong women in these roles, and then just literally giving no room for these people to be like, this is undeserved. Women couldn't do that. Like, these are badass women, and that is all you could argue about that. It was really
Yeah.
cool. Because that's something that Star Wars is built on. I mean, Leia
Yeah.
is one of the most pivotal characters, and
Yeah.
definitely represented her actress a lot. Carrie Fisher was a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that is like they show up to, it's like the trope, we got to go save the princess. And she's like,
No.
you guys even know what the hell you're doing? Like, let me get you out of here. We're going down a garbage chute. Like,
yeah, I really enjoyed that, where there was never really a damsel in distress plot, and that always scares me with modern fantasy and sci-fi. It
yeah.
was just like, hey,
But it's great because it's set up.
Every single person they met was consequential, was strong-willed. It felt like a Western where everyone's got to fend for themselves, and there's no just ordinary meat characters.
Exactly.
Even the very first episode where he kidnaps that guy who seems harmless and meaningless, ends up being a real pain in his ass. So,
yep.
I don't know. I was really happy. I've been really happy to see how much fan service and complexity Favreau and Filoni could put into this. And man, it's just a good time to be a Star Wars fan. It really is.
Yeah. And I think you put that very well. I'm super excited for next season.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm just excited to see what's coming out. I'm really excited to read the new High Republic books.
Yeah, that's what our next episode's going to be. I'm super excited for that, especially because Star Wars Explained, the guy that does that, he just gave like a review, like a spoiler-free review, and he was like, this is one of the best Star Wars books I've ever read. And I've read both of the other books that he recommended that I read, which his main ones that he suggests people read are like the Alphabet Squadron series, Tarkin, and Thrawn. And I'm just not to Thrawn yet because that's a whole trilogy. And that's going to use all my Audible credits. Also,
let's just throw this in real quick. Super excited for Thrawn being seated as a villain. That
I know. That's like one of my favorite things. Because I think he is one of the best Star Wars villains.
Easily.
And we already talked about having another episode just about the best Star Wars villains and antagonists and like the best kinds, etc. So that's definitely something we'll get into at some point.
Cool.
All right.
We kind of covered all of our feelings. Fish, do you have anything else to say about that last season, or?
Not about the last season. I'm super excited for the High Republic series, regardless of how you feel about whatever genre. It's going to be good to get a new like timeline. It's a breath of fresh air for everyone. So
yeah,
I'm excited for all that to come out.
Absolutely.
Because I know what they talked about in terms of like them trying to figure out what to do is like what's something that would scare the Jedi. Like that was their approach for having an antagonist. And I think this era will be cool because we'll get to see them like kind of at the beginning at like, the height of their power where stuff goes wrong. And we can see kind of how they get into like their folly and failures in the prequels. And I think the Acolyte can play into that, being dark side and be like what they're doing. So yeah,
Cool.
I think
that's
that
it.
wraps it up. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to the first ever episode of Outer Rim Radio. It's been a blast. I hope you can all join us for our next episode here in a couple weeks. We're obviously going to be taking a week off for Christmas, and then we'll be back after the new year. I'm down to do the show more, but I think right now what we're going to aim for is like a bi-weekly basis. And then you can follow us on Twitter at ORR Show on Twitter. And then you can follow me at Everything is Savage Gaming. The YouTube channel, the Twitch, everything is Savage Gaming. And I'll see you guys there. So thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.